What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you how to start a video production company in 2022. I've put together my top 10 tips on how to start a company, how to handle the legal, how to handle clients and lead generation, all that fun stuff. So hopefully this will help you in the new year. Follow your dream, follow your passion, and start a video company. So let's get into it. If you're a returning subscriber, returning viewer, thanks for following along. If you're new here, feel free to drop a like, drop a sub. We put out a bunch of content around video production, around the process, and business. Just a disclaimer, this video isn't for people that are just starting out in video or brand new to production. This is more for people that have been doing video production for a while. They're experienced, they know how to properly shoot, edit, all of that stuff, but maybe they're not super solid on the business, or they know that they want to start a business and they are just looking for some advice and all that stuff. So tip number one is figure out why you want to start a video production company. That is arguably the most important thing there. You have to figure out if you want to do it for the freedom or the money or just to follow your passion. Figuring out why you want to start your own company is super important, especially as you get deeper into it and you know, your company gets more established. It's important to remember back to why you started in the first place and sort of hold those values to your core as you move forward. So once you figure out why you want to start a company and sort of get that dialed in, we can move on to the next step, which is figuring out a name. You can basically name it after yourself, or you can take a different route and come up with a different name. I think that going back to step number one and figuring out your why and why you want to do it will also help this. If you want to kind of start something bigger than yourself, that may be sort of an indicator that you don't want to name it after yourself and you want to have kind of a team and everything else and people that sort of stand behind you. Think long term. Don't just think the next few months or whatever. Think the next 3-5 years. What's that going to look like? Once you figure out the name, we're good to move on to step number 3, which is legal. Legal is super, super important with any business. That is kind of the binding force of every transaction in business. Having a solid contract is hugely important for doing any type of video production work, especially when you're by yourself working for a large company that probably has a legal team behind them. Whether that's paying a subscription to LegalZoom or hiring an attorney and writing out a contract, having a service contract, service agreement is super important, and you should have that figured out before you get your first client. You should have that in place, figure out what the deliverable timeline is going to look like and what your payment schedule is going to look like and what happens if somebody doesn't pay. All of that stuff is super important, and you really should not be doing any work without having a contract in place. You should also establish what your business type is going to be before you really launch and start working with clients. Common route is going LLC or like a single member LLC. That is a relatively cost-effective option, and it doesn't change a whole lot when you're doing taxes and all of that stuff. Next up is step number 4. So this is basically your social and branding element. You need a website, you need social media, and you need a Google My Business page. Having a website is something that really elevates your credibility, and especially if you're new, being able to just hit it right off the bat with a super clean, super professional website is going to hopefully help win over clients. Going off of the website, having social media accounts is hugely important for starting a new business, any business for that matter, but especially something in a digital type industry like video production. Being able to put out your work, put out updates and all of that stuff on social is really important. Last thing I'll mention with your online presence is Google My Business. If you do plan on working locally, Google My Business is a must. You can create an account online and basically register your business to a location, put all your information, your website, all of that stuff, so that when people are searching for video production in your area, you're gonna come up. So step number 5 is doing market research. Do some market research and figure out how many other production companies are out there in your area, or how many other production companies are doing the same thing that you want to be doing. It helps to basically see what the strengths and weaknesses are of those other companies, what they're doing well, and where you could potentially improve on what they're not doing. So going off of the market research, we'll move move on to the next point, which kind of relates, and that is to try and figure out a niche that you can work in. Niches are a very effective way in really any type of business to get more business. Clients see that you're doing something that's related to them, and they're going to be more likely to reach out or want to work with you. So figuring out a niche that maybe interests you or that you see as an opportunity that maybe others aren't taking advantage of is something that can be really effective. So whether that's looking towards healthcare or doing product shoots for like e-commerce brands or direct to consumer, or working with home builders or government, all of those different things are niches, and it's sort of on a spectrum in terms of how wide or narrow you want to get with a niche. Obviously, you have to think about conflict of interest. If you're in a narrow niche, you will often have clients who are concerned about a conflict of interest. If you're working already for one of their competitors, that might be an issue. So the next tip I'll bring up after niching down is figuring out what your business and business model is going to look like. Within video production, there's sort of different business models that you can approach clients with. There's the traditional sort of doing one project for them, brand video, brand story, something like that. There's also creating video campaigns for clients, basically creating an umbrella of videos. Maybe you have some high level videos that are brand videos, then you have a bunch of social videos that trickle down, but they're all associated with the same campaign. They all sort of work off of one another. The other type of business model that we do a lot of is retainer. So retainer is basically just you're working ongoing with a client. For a video production company, you're getting that consistent income every single month, and so it becomes very predictable. And for a company who's getting the services, they're obviously getting some type of discount most likely, and they're working with a person or a team that really understands their brand and is able to learn more about it over time. So moving on to the next tip, lead generation and building relationships with potential clients. This is something that a lot of video people get really wrong when they start a company. They think that like having a solid reel and having a website and social media is going to be enough to have work coming in. A lot of the times it is not the case. You have to do a lot more work in regards to reaching out to companies and potential clients and marketing people and all of that stuff to really get their attention, so that you get to a point where they trust you enough to basically tell their brand story or work with their brand and create the content for them. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. The first way is just like shooting out cold emails to companies or specific people within the companies. We actually made a video about that, basically taking a step further and including videos in the emails. I'll link that above. Obviously, cold outreach is not going to be as successful as warm outreach. And the difference there is cold outreach is somebody doesn't know you. They're hearing from you for the first time. Warm outreach is basically you already know somebody in some way and you're essentially continuing a conversation. So next up is step number 9, and that is to over deliver on your projects. When you are working with a company or a client for the first time, they may be a little bit unsure or don't know what to expect. And so being able to over deliver and exceed their expectations is going to be huge and makes it a lot more likely that you're going to be working with them more going forward. If clients are happy, they're going to recommend you, they're going to refer you, you're going to get more business coming in, and maybe you'll even get to a point where you don't need to do any outreach or any lead generation or anything like that. You have enough happy clients that know other people that they're just referring you more and more business, and you're just basically growing organically like that. All right, so we've reached our last tip of this video. Again, I just want to remind you that if you like this content, if this is helpful stuff to you, please consider subscribing and dropping a like on this video. It helps us a ton with our goal of growing on YouTube. Tip number 10 is never be complacent. So complacency is a business killer, especially in video production where stuff is changing so quickly. Being able to adapt with that change is something that's just so important. In my opinion, your next video should always be better than your last in some way or another. You should be able to look at all of the videos that you've done over the last 12 months or 24 months and see an upward trend in just general quality, production quality, storytelling quality, just everything that's associated with the videos that you're making should be getting better over time and not staying level and definitely not going down. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. We'll definitely be doing more sort of business style content in the future. Let me know down below if you guys have any other questions. I'm happy to answer stuff or sort of cover stuff in more detail that we went over in this video. But yeah, that's about it. Until next time, peace.